25 forever. No wrinkles, no slowing metabolism, no creaky knees, ever again. Sounds like the best deal humanity's ever been offered. But stick with this thought experiment for a few minutes, and it starts looking a lot less like a gift and a lot more like a genuinely enormous problem with no clean solution. Let's actually think through what happens if human aging just stopped the moment everyone hit 25. Here's a fun starting point. 25 isn't actually a random age to pick for this. It's roughly when several parts of your body hit their genuine biological peak. Bone density typically maxes out around this age. Your immune system is generally operating near its strongest. Reaction time, muscle recovery, a lot of physical metrics all clustering right around this window before the slow decline that normally follows. Aging itself happens because of accumulating cellular damage. Your DNA repair mechanisms gradually get less efficient. Telomeres, the protective caps on your chromosomes, shorten with each cell division, and your body slowly gets worse at cleaning up damaged cells. If that entire process simply paused at 25, you'd theoretically be locking in the body at its actual physical prime, indefinitely. On a purely personal level, this sounds incredible at first. No more worrying about your knees on a run, no slow decline in eyesight. You'd have decades, maybe centuries, of peak physical capability to work with. But think about what that actually means for something like a career or a relationship. 50 years into the same job. 100 years into the same marriage. Watching everyone else around you continue evolving, learning new things, going through completely different life stages, while you remain, biologically, exactly who you were at 25, indefinitely. Some people would probably find that liberating. Plenty of others would likely find it exhausting in a completely different way than physical aging ever was. Now here's where the thought experiment gets genuinely uncomfortable. If people stop aging, they mostly stop dying of age-related causes. Accidents, disease, and other risks would still exist, but the single biggest driver of death across human history would essentially disappear. Meanwhile, people would presumably keep having children the way they always have. Do that math over a few generations, and you get a population curve that just keeps climbing with no natural ceiling anymore. Resources, housing, food production, all of it would need to somehow keep pace with a population that essentially never shrinks and constantly grows. Some people argue a scenario like this would eventually force real conversations around limiting birth rates just to keep things functional. Others argue human ingenuity and technology would find ways to expand resources fast enough to keep up. Genuinely, nobody actually knows which side would win that race in real life. There's also a stranger, quieter problem: generational turnover. Right now, society constantly refreshes. New generations bring new perspectives. New leadership eventually replaces old leadership. Careers open up as people retire, and social norms slowly shift as younger generations age into positions of influence. If nobody physically aged out of anything, a lot of that natural turnover just stops happening. The same people could occupy the same positions, the same leadership roles, the same jobs, for an unnervingly long time, simply because there's no biological clock eventually forcing a handoff. Whether that sounds stable or genuinely stagnant probably depends a lot on who you ask, and honestly, what position they currently hold. There's a slower, longer-term effect worth mentioning too. Evolution partly relies on generational turnover, new combinations of traits getting tested against the world, generation after generation, with natural selection quietly favoring whatever works best. If the existing population simply never ages out, and new generations arrive far more slowly relative to the total population, the pace at which humanity could biologically adapt to new environments or challenges would likely slow down considerably too. Not stop completely, new people would still be born, but the ratio between new genetic combinations entering the population and the total number of people already here would shift dramatically. And it's worth being clear about something important here. Not aging wouldn't mean not dying. Accidents would still happen. Diseases unrelated to aging would still exist. Violence, unfortunately, would still be a risk. So over a genuinely long enough timeline, even a population that stopped aging would still slowly lose people to everything except the aging process itself. It's less actual immortality and more permanently removing one specific cause of death from the equation, which is a very different and honestly more believable scenario than the sci-fi version of this idea usually implies. So, is freezing everyone at 25 actually a good idea? Genuinely, there's no clean answer here. It solves real problems: physical decline, age-related disease, the entire fear of getting old. But it creates equally real ones in exchange: overcrowding, generational gridlock, slower societal and evolutionary adaptation over time. It's less a simple upgrade and more a trade, swapping one entire set of problems for a completely different set that humanity has genuinely never had to deal with before. So if you actually got offered this deal right now, frozen at 25, forever, would you take it? Comment your honest answer and whether you'd actually want to watch everyone else keep changing while you didn't.